They laughed when he adopted a sick, unwanted goat. They said it would die within weeks. But what they didn't know was that the fragile little animal was about to save a man who had already given up on himself. When people think of second chances, they don't usually imagine a goat, and they definitely don't imagine one named Hope. But in a small farming community outside Boise, a stubborn little goat changed one man's life in ways no one saw coming. Thomas Reed used to be the kind of man who filled a room with laughter. He ran a small hardware store. He coached Little League. He waved at neighbors and knew everyone by name, but that was before the accident. 3 years earlier, a car crash had taken his wife, Maria. She had been his partner in everything, the heartbeat of their home. After she was gone, the laughter disappeared. The hardware store closed. The yard grew wild, and Thomas stopped answering phone calls. He wasn't angry at the world. He was just empty. Empty. One rainy afternoon, Thomas drove aimlessly down a country road. He didn't know why. He just needed to move. That's when he saw a cardboard sign near a small farm. Free goat. Sick cannot keep. He almost drove past, but something made him stop. Behind the fence stood a small, thin white goat with uneven patches of fur. One leg trembled slightly. Her ears drooped. She looked fragile. Unwanted. The farmer explained she had been the runt of the litter. Constant infections. Weak immune system. Vet bills too expensive. She probably won't last long, the farmer said bluntly. Thomas looked into the goat's eyes. They weren't scared. They weren't angry. They were tired, but still fighting. And in that moment, Thomas saw himself. "I'll take her," he said quietly. Thomas had never owned livestock before. He didn't know what goats ate. He didn't know how to treat infections. He barely remembered how to take care of himself. But that first night, he cleared space in his old shed. He laid down fresh hay. He warmed water. And when the little goat refused to eat, he sat beside her in the cold for hours, gently holding the bowl closer. "Come on," he whispered. "Don't quit on me." She eventually took a few weak bites. It wasn't much, but it was enough. He named her Hope. The next weeks were hard. Vet visits, medicine, sleepless nights. Hope would sometimes collapse suddenly, her legs giving out beneath her. Each time, Thomas would panic. Each time, she would struggle back up. There was something in her, a refusal to surrender. And slowly, Thomas began to mirror that same stubbornness. He started waking up earlier, cleaning the shed, researching goat care. He repaired broken fences. For the first time in years, he had a reason to get out of bed. One winter morning, Thomas slipped on ice near the barn. It felt hard. Pain shot through his hip and back. He couldn't stand. The air was freezing, and his phone was inside the house. He tried to shout, but the wind swallowed his voice. Minutes passed. Then something nudged his shoulder. Hope. She bleated loudly, repeatedly, urgently. Thomas weakly pushed her away, but she didn't stop. Instead, she ran toward the road and kept screaming over and over until a passing delivery truck slowed down. The driver noticed the frantic goat running near the fence. He stopped, followed the noise, and found Thomas lying in the snow. The doctor later said another hour in that cold could have been fatal. Thomas didn't remember much from that day, but he remembered this. Hope refused to leave him. News spread quickly in town. The same people who once laughed about the sick goat project now came to visit. They brought feed, blankets, even small donations to help with vet bills. Children began asking if they could pet Hope, and surprisingly, she loved them. The weak little goat, who was expected to die now, ran gently alongside toddlers. Her fur grew thicker. Her limbs softened, her eyes sparkled. But more importantly, Thomas changed. He reopened a hardware store part-time at first. He smiled again. Not the loud laugh from before, but a quiet, grateful smile. Years passed. Hope never grew very big. She remained smaller than most goats, but she grew strong, and Thomas often sat beside her in the evenings, brushing her fur as the sun set over the Idaho hills. One evening, he whispered something he hadn't said out loud in years. "Thank you for staying." Hope rested her head against his chest. Animals don't speak our language, but sometimes they understand more than we do. When Hope grew old, it happened gently. No dramatic moments, no sudden tragedy, just a peaceful morning where she didn't rise from her hay. Thomas sat beside her for hours. He didn't cry loudly. He didn't scream. He simply held her head in his lap and whispered the same words she once inspired in him. "Don't quit on me." But this time, it was okay, because she hadn't quit. She had finished her work. Thomas turned part of his property into a small animal rescue. He named it Hope's Haven. They specialize in taking in animals that others consider too sick, too old, or not worth it. When people ask him why he does it, he says, "Because sometimes the ones the world gives up on are the very ones sent to save us." Kindness is not measured by how strong you are, but by how deeply you choose to care. Sometimes, the ones we think we are rescuing are the very ones rescuing us. Never underestimate the healing power of compassion. If you were given a second chance to love again after loss, would you open your heart, even knowing it might hurt someday? And have you ever been saved by something or someone the world underestimated?